What's up, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the First and Foremost Sports Podcast. I am your co-host, Quinton Douglas.
I'm Jimmy Covington.
And we have with us today a very special guest, Mr. Kelly Holcomb. How you doing tonight, Mr. Kelly?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing? I don't know if it's very special guest, but yeah, I'm doing good, man.
Well, you're special to us, man. We appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank y'all for having me.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you
sir,
for
no
good. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Like I told Jimmy, I couldn't commend him enough for, pulling this through for us. We've been doing this podcast for about, 8 months now.
Yeah.
And I guess you're really officially our first special guest.
Outside of Tehran.
Right.
I got you. Well, hey, I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So we don't want to waste any more of your time. So I think Jimmy was going to kind of lead off the first segment. So I'll let him go ahead and do that.
Gotcha.
So for our fans who may be unfamiliar with who Mr. Kelly Holcomb is, former MTSU QB from 91 to 94, spent time, with the Indianapolis Colts, the Browns, the Buffalo Bills, and the Minnesota Vikings. Played in the early 2000s, had some good times. Played in the playoff game where he put up some impressive numbers. So, I'm just excited, just like Quinn, to have him on. And so we can go ahead and get started here. So, like I said, back in 91 was when you started playing at MTSU, played there for 4 years. And then after that, you spent time with the Bucs practice squad in 95, right?
I did, yeah. I went down there, and that was kind of my first taste of the NFL. I didn't really understand how it worked. And Sam White was the coach, which I normally used to talk to Sam, probably twice a year. And then he passed away a couple of months ago, so that was tough for myself. I didn't realize that Sam was sick. Like, I knew he had some health issues, but it's just sad that happened. But yeah, I went down to to Tampa Bay to begin with, and that was kind of my first go round with the National Football League, and kind of really understood, from the first get go, just how much of a business it was. It's pretty tough to get in, and I was from a small school, and one of my former teammates was Trent Dilfer, who's now the coach at Lipscomb Academy. So, he kind of helped me, with the ropes and things like that. Himself and Casey Weldon. So, it wasn't a great time in my life. I was on a team, I was on the practice squad, but I got taken off and on, and it was just it was kind of an up and down road for me to begin with. But it kind of taught me the business of the NFL.
And I see you also kind of spent time with the Barcelona Dragons of NFL Europe.
I did. If that's a good point right there, because if anything came out of Tampa Bay when I went down there was the Barcelona Dragons. That gave me an opportunity to kind of showcase my skills, and they were allocating guys back then to NFL Europe teams. It was NFL Europe when I went. I think was it NFL? Yeah, it was NFL Europe. I think it started out as the World American Football League over there, but NFL Europe started back, and that was a good thing about me going to Tampa. They sent me over there to get some experience because I hadn't had any experience in pro ball, and that was that was a blessing in disguise right there. I didn't, we stayed over there for 3 months, and I just gotten married, and I took my wife with me, and anybody that doesn't like our country needs to go somewhere else and see how they like it, because it's very different. It was fun. It was fun to go over there, but it was the food's a little different. The people are different. It was fun to get to play football, and I really enjoyed that. I got to see some of the world, but that was one of the benefits of Tampa Bay, that they did send me to the World League and gave me some experience.
And of course, going back to your time with MTSU, I was looking at kind of the first game you really made a name for yourself. Your freshman year, you had a game against Florida State.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just kind of walk us through that game and what that was like for you.
Yeah, I was, unfortunately, we had to play the number one team 2 years in a row. We played Florida State when I was a freshman, then we came back when I was a sophomore. We played Nebraska, and both those teams were number one in the country. So it was fun getting to go down there. I think it was 21-10 at halftime. And I always tell people this: when I went to MTSU, we were 1AA back then. And our first 22 was really, we could compete with pretty much anybody. But after you got past that, we didn't have much depth. And they ran us up and down the field. We went and I think when we played Nebraska the next year, it was 14-7 at halftime. They came out and thought that they were going to throw the ball on us. And then the second half was when Tommy Frazier came in. I don't know if people know who Tommy Frazier is, but yeah, I think he won the Heisman Trophy. But that was his first game against us. In the second half, they did not throw the ball not one more time. They just ran it down our throat. And they were not – it looked like they had like 160 guys on the team. And they didn't just bring fresh – like they didn't just bring a fresh guard in or a fresh tackle. They brought 5 brand-new offensive linemen in. Our guys out there with their tongues hanging out. It was tough, but it was fun getting to go to places like that and play. We played in Hawaii the next year, so it was fun getting to experience that and getting to go to these big places. And I didn't realize that they were going to be the number one teams when we did it, but they were really good, and it was a good experience for us.
No doubt. And of course, going to your Cleveland Brown days, that's really where you spent the meat of your NFL career. Of course, when you first got there, you battled. Was it Tim Couch?
It was Tim Couch, yes.
Right. He was the number one pick. But you beat him out pretty much, kind of for the starting job, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It was kind of a situation where we both fell under. Tim is one of my really good friends. People thought that we didn't like each other because we were competing against each other. He came in an expansion year where obviously the Cleveland Browns picked up and went to Baltimore, and then the Cleveland Browns didn't have a team for a long time, and then they came back. And when you're an expansion team, you don't have really good players a lot of times. And Tim got beat up his first couple of years because he had nobody blocking for him. They didn't have the pieces together, and when I got there, they were starting to get that back. But I was fortunate enough to have some things go my way. And yeah, I ended up, we competed for 1 year, and I ended up, it all happened kind of the year before because he got injured a couple of games, and I came in, I played really well. And then, Jimmie was talking about the playoff game. I played really well in that. And then after you have a game like that, unless the guy is firmly entrenched as a starting quarterback, you kind of got to let the guys compete. And then Butch Davis let us compete, and they gave me the job. So I was excited about that. But after that playoff game, we had lost so many key guys, which I wish that they wouldn't have done that. They always used the excuse of it was a salary cap issue, and I just don't know. I think the guys loved the organization, and we had something really going. If we'd have kept that team together and we would have put some more pieces in place, we could have done some things for a little while. And I might have could have started for a few more years. And it was just after that playoff game, man, things kind of went downhill.
And I see for the next couple of years, you spent some time in Buffalo, and then you finished it up by finishing your career in Minnesota. So, can you just talk about, those last, 3 or 4 years of your career, and, how, it helped you going forward, even, going into your coaching career? Did they have anything to do with going into coaching?
Well, my last couple of years, I love Buffalo. Buffalo's a great place. It's just cold. Minnesota's really cold. I had one of my coaches say, if you were going to go anywhere else, you were about to go to Canada, because I kept going north and north and north, and then I went to Minnesota. But I really like Buffalo. The guy that brought me there was Mike Mularkey. He was obviously the coach down here with the Titans, but Mike brought me to Buffalo, and then I spent a year there, and then Mike left, and it's just kind of how things were. It seems like when you look back on your career, I think if Mike could have stayed there and we'd have gotten some more pieces, I maybe could have stayed there and played for a little while. But Mike didn't see eye to eye with the ownership, and I think that they asked him to do some things that he didn't want to do. And Mike's kind of a loyal guy, and he decided not to do it. So then, I ended up I actually ended up getting traded to Philadelphia, and I spent a training camp there, and then they ended up drafting a guy that they didn't think they were going to be able to get. So when they did that, I was like, good gracious. So they ended up trading me to Minnesota at the kind of towards the end of training camp. And then that's how I went to Minnesota. And I could have played some more years, but I got to the point where, I was kind of dreading things. And, I feel like I could have squeezed about 2 or 3 more years out. I got to play with Adrian Peterson when he was a rookie. He was really good. He's a really good back. And, I met some good people up there. But, after I left there and I had some opportunities, I figured they weren't going to bring me back. But I had some opportunities to go to some other places. But I was kind of just felt like I was done at that point. Talking about the coaching aspect, I really didn't want to coach, to be honest with you. I didn't want to get into that. I'm really good with young kids, and I got into what I'm doing now as coaching high school. I really got into that because I wanted to be around and mentor young kids. I didn't do it because of football, but that gives me an avenue to do it. Because I do have some knowledge about the game, and I like being around kids, and I think I could have a positive impact. I wouldn't want to coach in college because they have to recruit and do all that. I've got a buddy that wants me to come to the NFL at some point. I don't know. I had an opportunity to go do that with Bruce Arians about 3 years ago in Arizona. And, I wanted to watch my kids grow up because when you become a coach, man, it's, when you go to the NFL, it's coaching all the time. You never really get a break. So I don't know. I've been fortunate enough to see my kids grow up. I've got my 2 girls. My 2 oldest girls are in college, and my son is a junior in high school. So I've been fortunate and blessed that I've been able to stay at home and watch them grow up. So that's kind of – but the coaching thing just happened because I think kids, and I still think kids need positive role models in their life right now. And with all the single parent homes right now, that's kind of why I did it. It's not really because of football. It's because I wanted to be a positive influence on these young men.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And of course, while you're talking about coaching, Jimmie told me that you all are in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, we are.
So,
We've had a pretty good year. It's we're in the quarterfinals. We got to play our arch nemesis Friday night, which is Oakland. So we hadn't been very successful against them in the last couple. Well, it's been a while now. So my son's back. He didn't play the first game because he broke his finger and he had to have pins put in his finger. But he's back now. So we'll see what happens Friday night. Big game.
Yeah.
all right, we definitely wish you luck.
Oh yeah, I'm rooting for y'all. I might actually be in that game if I could be there. I might actually be there.
Come on.
But I do have a question. So, when you think about the way the quarterback position was played, in the early 2000s, when you played most of your career, and think about now, what are some of the key difference quarterbacks then versus quarterbacks now?
Quarterbacks now run. That was not my game. My game was my arm talent and my mind. When I was in college, it was a different day and age. When I was in high school, you saw an odd front and you saw cover 3. In college, it was kind of the same things. And now, all that stuff is bled down into high school. Like the pro stuff bleeds down in college and the college stuff bleeds down in high school. But I didn't really see all that stuff. And when I went to college, I didn't, my college coach, he's like my dad. I had lunch with him the other day, but he was talking about how I didn't really watch film. And he's right, because my ability, I just understood the game. At some point of the game, you have to learn how to watch film. You have to learn the ins and outs of being a good quarterback. But, these guys nowadays, they're so athletic, and my college coach always said you can be too good of an athlete and not be a very good quarterback. And, I still hold true to that. You look at the Lamar Jackson, of course, he's a different type dude. These guys nowadays that run in the pros like Lamar Jackson. I mean, hey, that's what he does. But at some point, I mean, he's going to get hurt doing it, you know. And I just think that the quarterback position is too key. And at some point, you got to learn. Like Ben Roethlisberger did it when he was younger. I mean, he didn't understand stuff, I don't think, but he was gifted where he could move around. And now he doesn't move at all. He doesn't run. He doesn't. But he's learned how to play the game inside the pocket. And at some point, all these guys that are ultra talented and athletic, you have to sit down, you have to learn the game, and you have to learn how to throw from the pocket. And I think Russell Wilson is a great example of that, because I don't think he's a great runner, but he's a thrower first. Mm-hmm. And he takes advantage of the situations when he's able to run. So the difference between now and then is the athleticism of the quarterbacks. I'm glad that I played when I did. My son's more athletic than I am. He can run. He doesn't like to run. He's not very big right now, but I was not that guy. I mean, I was going to, my old coach in Indianapolis he would always say 1, 2, 3 and throw it in the stands. And that's how I was. I was 1, 2, 3, throw it away. And I had to change protections. If I had to run, I was probably going to throw the ball away, because, we had a defensive lineman in Courtney Brown. I don't know if y'all remember who Courtney Brown was, but he was a number 1 overall pick at Penn State. Mm-hmm. And he's a defensive tackle, and that dude ran a 4.6 40. Yeah. I mean, I can't run that. And I mean, he's 50 pounds heavier than I was. You know what I'm saying?
You didn't want any parts of it.
No, I wanted no parts of that. So those guys are just so athletic, and the defensive lineman can run. It's just crazy. So I always beat people with my arm and my mind.
No doubt. And of course, while we're talking about current quarterbacks, at this point, we're heading into week 11 of this NFL season. So just kind of, what's your opinion on the current MVP race? Do you maybe have a top 5 or so guys maybe right now?
I mean, you got to put I'm just thinking of quarterback. I think you got to put Russell Wilson up there. He's just kind of unbelievable to me. And obviously Patrick Mahomes. I'm a big I think that if Jameson and I were talking, my son was talking about it last night. I think if Aaron Rodgers had a defense, if he would have had a defense around him, he should have had 3 or 4 Super Bowls by now.
Oh yeah,
he's ultra talented, man. I mean, I just, like, you marvel at the guy throwing, and his footwork is not very good, but he's just got such great arm talent, such great arm strength. It's kind of ridiculous, man. It really is. I think, and I know that he's had a couple of not good games the last couple of weeks, but I mean, you look at the only undefeated team, and I think you got to look at Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, he's playing really well. He's throwing the ball good. So, those are probably the 4 guys. Derek Carr's playing really good out in Las Vegas. I mean, he's quietly going about his business and winning games. I don't know if he's an MVP candidate, but he's doing well. So, there's all, when you get to that league and when you're a starting quarterback, you're pretty good.
And
no doubt about that.
I know with guys like Derek Carr, like you said, he really doesn't get the praise that he deserves, because he's a great quarterback, and he does what John Gruden asked him to do. That's the thing. And he does it at a high level. You got a lot of guys to put up these big numbers, but that's not always needed. And I think, sometimes, people think of Derek Carr as a game manager, but I've grown to learn, and I'm sure Quinton has too, that being a game manager should not, come with a negative connotation. Being able to manage the game is something that's hard to do in the NFL.
Well, I'm glad, Jimmy, I'm glad you said that, man, because I have a problem. I have problems when people say, well, he's a game manager. What does that mean? Every quarterback is a game manager. I mean, good guy. I guess that's what I was known for, a game manager. Well, I feel like that's a compliment to me. But like, when you get noticed as a game manager, they're talking about, well, you can't make plays. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with anything. Any quarterback is a game manager. I mean, you look at Tom Brady. He's the ultimate game manager. I mean, he gets the ball to the right people. He doesn't turn the ball over. He gets you in the right plays, and when the game's on the line, he puts the ball where it's supposed to be. And that's what a game manager – I get so irritated with that game manager deal. That's what a quarterback's job is, to manage the game.
And I think,
Exactly.
and I think fans have been kind of spoiled seeing guys like Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Russ sling it around. But that's what the coaches are asking them to do. And you've seen it. We've all seen it with Patrick Mahomes this year. The yards per, he might not throw for 400 yards a game, but I've seen even some improvement where he's getting to first, second, third progressions, and he's getting 5 or 6 yards. He's really taking what the defense gives him. And I think he's gotten better. And it's kind of scary considering how good he already was to begin with.
No,
Exactly.
he's ultra talented, man. He's one of those guys that is a throw first and he'll run when you give him the opportunity. But I don't know if y'all heard about this, but like a couple of years ago, he talked about he didn't know how to read a defense until like last year.
Yep, I
So
remember
that
that.
just at some point you got to sit down. You have to learn the game. I mean, that's why he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now, because you have to learn the game. You got there with talent, but when your skills start diminishing, like you look at Drew Brees and you look at Tom Brady, those guys are the ultimate in understanding the game, and their skills
All
are.
up
I
here.
mean, they're just getting older, man. Their skills are diminishing, but they can still win games because they understand the game and they understand that, hey, I don't have the same arm that I had a long time ago, but if I'm accurate with the ball and if I throw it on time, I win games.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought up Drew Brees too, because people call him a game manager because he can't really, well, he doesn't throw the ball downfield that much. But he is effective at what he does. And I mean, he easily completes more than 70% of his passes every season. But I do have to ask you about it since you mentioned him. Of course, you play a little bit under Coach Bruce Arians. And now, of course, him and Tom Brady are together in Tampa Bay. So what do you think about that pairing?
I hope that me personally hopes that Brady can bring Bruce a Super Bowl. Now, Bruce has been to the Super Bowl with the Steelers. I think he won 2. My old offensive coordinator when I was in Indianapolis is there with him, Tom Moore. He's got a couple of Super Bowls way back with the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the 70s, and then he won one at Indianapolis. So I want Bruce to win a Super Bowl as a head coach. I don't know if they can do that this year. I mean, I think they got an opportunity. I don't know. They got to play better than they did against the Saints. Now, the Saints are really good.
Oh, yeah.
But now I know that Drew Brees he's out right now, and he broke his ribs, and I think he got a collapsed lung too. So
It's pretty bad.
I don't know, but I hadn't talked to Bruce during the season. I talked to him before the year. Bruce is kind of a mad scientist. He's got Byron Leftwich calling his plays for him. So, they're getting things ironed out. It takes some time when you got a guy that spent 20 years at one organization and then he goes to another place and it's just totally different about, I'm sure, they had to get used to Tom, but Tom obviously had to get used to Bruce and the way he does things with,
Right.
he's going from a guy in Bill Belichick who's really organized. I'm sure Bruce is the same way, but it's still different. It's still different. And he's got to get accustomed to, throwing to those receivers, the protections that are different, the terminology is probably different. So there's a phase, there's things in there that you got to learn about each other. And, I'm pulling for them because, I've got a bunch of, Todd Bowles was with me. Mike Caldwell's their linebacker coach. He was one of my college teammates. Tom Moore's there. Bruce is there. I've got so many people that are on that staff that I know personally that, are good friends of mine. And I want them to win a Super Bowl. I really do.
Well, I think they definitely have a great chance, especially with the Super Bowl's being hosted in Tampa Bay this year. So that'll be a pretty good feat for Tom Brady if he can pull that off and get a 7th ring. So,
Yeah, I think
but
that's kind of why he left too. I mean, I think he got tired of everybody talking about, he couldn't do it without Bill Belichick. And I think that he
exactly.
wants to show everybody that he's got the ability to do that. Now, whether he will, I don't know. But, I think that's one of the key deals where, I think that was in the back of his mind why he left the New England Patriots because, he'd already won 6. He's been to 9. And I think he gets tired of hearing, hey, if neither one of those guys had each other, they wouldn't have done what they've done. And I want, I think he probably said, well, I want to go somewhere and show people that I can do it myself without him, So we'll see what happens. I wish him well. I hope they win.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, about saying neither one of them can win without the other, because I've always kind of hated that saying because, a quarterback and a coach works hand in hand, and it's kind of hard to win. I heard Bill Belichick say, I want to think last year, great players can have have a letdown season where, being led by like a bad or an average coach. It's kind of like vice versa. You can have a great coach, but you can have a terrible quarterback, and they can kind of hinder your success. So I think it kind of works hand in hand. And I don't understand why a lot of people, trying to separate the two, because I think, it was a perfect relationship, and that's why they were so successful for so long.
That's correct. There's a lot of things that have to go right for you to be in the situation that they had for a long time. But if you look at that league, if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to win any games. No. So that's what separates that league from, in high school, you can get away with, maybe not having a guy, I still think it's really important in high school, but you can kind of get away with it. You have to have a good guy behind center because he has to be able to manage the game and make good decisions. And, hey, a coach and a quarterback are part of the deal. I mean, they both make each other, and I get irritated with people about that too. But that's newspapers, and that's everybody's trying to stir things up. It all falls together. I mean, you have to have a guy at the helm under center that can manage a game, that can when things break down, that he can make smart decisions with the football and not turn it over.
No doubt. And I have to ask you, of course, growing up and being a quarterback, who did you yourself model your game after or look up to?
Well, this is really funny, but y'all won't even know who this is. You might. I'm sure you probably will. But you know what? When I was growing up, there wasn't all these games on TV, but I was a huge Phil Simms fan.
Phil Simms.
I like Phil Simms. I don't know why. I mean, I can't. And you know what? I got Phil when I was with the Indianapolis Colts. I got Phil to autograph a ball for me, and he went to Morehead State. I went to Middle, and he was, that was. I don't know. I like watching Joe Montana. Obviously, he was the greatest playing back then. But I always admired Phil Simms was tough. He was smart. He never got recognized for a lot of things, but he just won football games, and he played under a very hard coach in Bill Parcells, and I always admired Phil Simms.
I think that was a great guy to look up to. He's definitely one of the more underrated quarterbacks to me in NFL history. So
that's right. I don't know if he still holds the record for the highest completion percentage in a Super Bowl or not, but I know he only missed 2 passes in one Super Bowl, and that was pretty big. So he was. I don't know why, man, but I admired him very much. I liked him.
Now they won 2 together, didn't they?
They
Him
did,
and Coach
yeah.
Parcells.
He was the one year that they won it. Jeff Rutledge was the quarterback because Phil Simms got hurt before the playoffs.
Okay.
So I think Jeff Rutledge was the one that took him to the Super Bowl, and they actually won with him.
Okay. I think that was all the questions I have for you, Mr. Kelly. Jimmie, did you have anything else?
No, I didn't. I do appreciate you for tuning in with us. Like I said, thank you. You didn't have to give us your time, but you did, and we really appreciate you.
Guys, I appreciate it, man. No problem, man. Anytime. Y'all just call me back anytime.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks again, man.
All right, fellas. Talk to you.
All right.
Talk to you later. All right. Again, that was Mr. Kelly Holcomb, former NFL quarterback and former MTSU Blue Raider. Of course, him and Jimmie got that Blue Raider connection going. So, like I said before, I definitely appreciate you, bro, for getting that together for the show. But now, you go ahead. My bad.
Oh yeah, shout out to my cousin Xavier. He plugged us in. They play flag football together. I've actually seen them play. I interviewed Kelly a couple years ago. So shout out to my cousin Xavier for
He
plugging
still
us
he
in,
still
man.
can sling it.
Can he? And he maneuver in the pocket like a wizard.
Okay. But man, we're gonna transition to the last segment of the show. Of course, the NBA, a lot of big things have been going on. Perhaps the biggest that has happened so far, CP3 was traded to the Phoenix Suns for a package including Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, a few other players, as well as some package draft picks. So, Jimmy, what was your thoughts on the trade?
Remember we spoke on it a week before. I said I wouldn't do it. I mentioned that it was probably going to include, Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, and possibly the first round pick. I thought it might include this year's first round pick, but it didn't. It's next year's first round pick. But I mean, CP3 brings leadership, extremely high basketball IQ. They call him the point guard for a reason, and he's still playing, the position at a high level. And, he's finally putting another high level guard, alongside Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. So, you know, that team's going to contend for a playoff spot. If I'm not mistaken, the NBA has expanded the playoffs this season to 10 teams in each conference.
Oh, well, it's a play-in tournament, but yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
Okay, so, obviously they'll compete for one of those playoff spots, and I hope they get in because Phoenix has been in a 10-year drought.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Like I said, I thought it would be a good trade. You know, I think Phoenix was in a position where you got a star player, a young star player, and D Book, who probably hadn't even hit his prime yet. And I mean, he can easily drop 40, 50 on any given night at any point. But if you don't remember, he actually said in 2018 at the end of the season that was his last time not making the playoffs. And of course, they came close this year, but unfortunately still didn't make it. So I felt that the Suns felt that their backs were against the wall and they had to be as aggressive as possible in trying to keep D Book in town. And I think him and CP3 make a great pairing together. I mean, we both know what CP3 brings to the table. Probably second or third best point guard of all time, depending on what your preference is. I mean, people thought he lost a step last year, counted him out just because he had that inflated contract. But I mean, he showed us just exactly what he can still bring to the table, even at this point in his career. I mean, he's a locker room presence both on and off the court. He showed that he can play off the ball. And I think that's going to be something big for D Book, too, because he won't have to completely sacrifice giving up the ball to someone else, while also it lightens his load because he has someone else that can play make for him. Uh, so I definitely think it's a big step for D Book. Of course, they still got DeAndre Ayton, who's definitely probably going to be a future All Star.
Pick and
He
roll.
started exactly. He even started. Hey, he can shoot threes now. He sprayed his game out a little bit. And you mentioned Mikal Bridges, one of the best young defenders in the NBA. I feel his offense doesn't get talked about enough. He can shoot for sure. Um, and he's a pit bull, no doubt. And you got Cam Johnson, who's a young shooter. They just drafted last year. He's still coming into his own. And the Suns still have 20 plus million in cap space. So they definitely probably aren't finished in the market this offseason. So I expect them to make some more moves, but depending on what they do, I could see the Suns being a top 5 seed because this roster to me is better than the one CP3 had in OKC.
And they also, they're on the clock right now with the 10th pick in the NBA draft. So we'll see what they do with that pick too.
Well, that was ironic.
Yep.
Also, I saw my Bulls drafted Patrick Williams, and I don't know how I feel about that right now.
Has Killian Hayes got drafted yet?
No, I didn't see him get drafted.
You know what? I think, and I honestly believe he may be the best player in this draft when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I told you when you pointed him out to me last time, and I think he's smooth. I see a little bit of D'Angelo Russell in this game, or even Manu Ginobili. If he can truly reach his ceiling, that could be the type of player we see him become. Because I mean, he could play make, get to the hole. So
He has, in correction, he has been drafted. He got drafted 7th by Detroit.
okay, that's a good spot. And they still got D Rose, of course. So
And
and I
Phoenix just took Jalen Smith, a 6'10" power forward out of University of Maryland.
and you know what? That's what they needed, a power forward. So that's perfect. I'm surprised Denny Avdija is still on the board,
Oh yeah. No, he got
but
drafted. He got
Woj
he got
just
he got
did
drafted
he?
9th
Oh, he
by
went
Washington.
ninth. Okay,
Yep.
okay, okay.
Now Jalen Smith, 6'10", 225, a 7'2" wingspan, shot 37% from three last year, 75% from the free throw line.
That's a real good pick.
So he's an effective shot blocker too. So can do it on both ends, further adding, to what they can do. So I think the Suns are going to be, an exciting team to watch next season.
No doubt. They just got to fill out their bench now, really. And I mean, they got a backup center already. They still got Aaron Baines.
Yep. And they,
So
yep.
if they just get some more wing depth, maybe another guard or so, they'll be good to go. And of course, last but not least, our special Give 'em His Roses segment. So, Jimmy, this week, who you giving your roses to?
Showing love to some defense this week. I got an undersized
Okay.
linebacker. Undersized linebacker, not much taller than me actually. London Fletcher, standing at 5'10", 242 pounds. London Fletcher is the definition of underrated. Was undrafted out of John Carroll University back in 1998. Won a Super Bowl in year two with the 99-2000 Rams, the greatest show on turf. Played in 256 games. He started in 240 of them. Had over 2,000 career tackles, 92 pass deflections, 23 interceptions, 24 fumbles, 39 sacks. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler. But get this, though. He made all 4 of his Pro Bowls from ages 34 to age 37. So at 30, he didn't make his first Pro Bowl until 2009. He got drafted in 98. He didn't make his first All Pro selection to age 36 in
I guess
2011.
I knew he was old, but I guess it's just not really hitting me that he was that old. Because I
He made
remember London Fletcher being cold.
Yep, he made his first 2 All Pros in 2011, 2012 at ages 36 and 37.
Man,
So London,
he was up there.
and London Fletcher should be in the Hall of Fame. And I think he might not be in the Hall of Fame because he only has 4 Pro Bowl selections. They might be hindering the process, but he has over 2,000 tackles though.
I think he should be in there.
But like we've mentioned, we know how the Hall of Fame is.
Unfortunately, man. But I think that was a good pick. I like the route of going defense this week, switching it up. But I'm staying on offense. I'm going with the receiver we may all be familiar with, but in my book, I think he's underrated. Uh, and I'm going with Hines Ward. Of course, he played Pittsburgh Steelers. He got 2 rings with them. He actually was Super Bowl MVP for one of those games. 4-time Pro Bowler. He was 3-time All Pro selection. And of course, even in college, he was cold too. Actually, at Georgia at the time when he finished, he was second in all-purpose yards behind only Herschel Walker. But I think that may have been passed since then, if I'm not mistaken. But at the time, definitely a big accomplishment. But like I said, he played for the Steelers. He finished his career with exactly 1,000 receptions. He had 12,083 receiving yards, along with 85 receiving touchdowns. He was lethal, especially in the slot. He was a returner. I mean, he was a do-it-all guy. He was an Iron Man. he rarely ever missed any games, and he played for 11 seasons. I think I counted on one hand how many games he missed. He was just that kind of dude. I mean, he really embodied, that Pittsburgh Steeler, like tough, hard nosed, physical, just at your throat kind of guy. Um, and like I said, I just think he's one of the more underrated receivers because he's another guy who's not in the Hall of Fame. And actually, I didn't know till I was just looking him up. He's an offensive assistant with the New York Jets.
I didn't know that either. One
I
thing
didn't
I did.
realize. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Like,
I didn't realize all these old receivers were hiding on coaching staffs because we got Wes Welker. Yeah, he helps with our receivers.
I did know that. I did know that. I don't know what's going on, but I did know that. One thing I do remember with Hines Ward did a lot of the dirty work too, in addition to being a number one receiver. So I do admire that about him too. He was a great blocker too.
I'm telling you, I mean, literally did it all. It was no weakness in his game. I know it wasn't a dude I wouldn't have wanted to match up with as a DB.
Nah, it's too much
Especially
work.
a little small corner.
Nah, it's too much work. Nah, if he just throwing the ball, catching passes, okay, let's go. But if he blocking to the home, I don't need all that.
Nah, because he wasn't no little dude either. He was bulky. But did you have anything else to add, man?
Nope. It's been a great show. We're
No doubt about that.
looking forward to having more guests. We have a special guest coming in the next few. A Super Bowl champ. He should be on the show very soon. Just kind of wait to see how this Tennessee football playoffs pan out. So we're trying to give him a little time here. So we'll let y'all, we'll be giving y'all some updates going soon on when you could potentially see a member of the 2000 Ravens.
Y'all definitely stay plugged in. We got some big things coming. So definitely stay tuned in. Of course, have our social medias. We're on Facebook, Twitter, which everybody seems to be hopping on now with the stories available. We're on Instagram. We also have our YouTube page. You can still pretty much find us on every podcast platform where you can find podcasts. And once again, I thank you all for continuing to support us. And like Jimmy said, this was probably one of my favorite episodes so far. So did you have anything else to add, bro?
Nope. Just want to say thank y'all.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Episode 34 in the books. I am the one and only Quinton Douglas.
And I'm Jimmy Covington.
All right. We out. Deuces.
Thank y'all.